All right, guys, so I want to react to this train wreck interview from CNN's Kaitlan Collins when she goes into an absolute meltdown over Vivek Ramaswamy, who's a Republican presidential candidate, possibly believing in 9/11 conspiracies. Now, just to give you guys a background here on what Vivek Ramaswamy is saying and the argument that he's making, which is not really a conspiracy because it is backed up by declassified FBI documents that basically state that, hey, we were wrong initially about Saudi Arabia's potential role in 9/11, in the sense that initially after 9/11 happened, there was speculation that Saudi Arabia could have been involved, or at the very least, they may have knew about the plot to conduct a terrorist attack on the United States, what would eventually end up being 9/11. Now, this story revolves around this Saudi Arabian student by the name of Omar al-Bayoumi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he just so happened to take in the two terrorists that were involved in 9/11 back in Los Angeles in the year 2000. And initially, FBI reports, the Saudi Arabian government, the 9/11 Commission denied that this person was a Saudi Arabian spy, right? That he was a Saudi Arabian intelligence officer. However, just a few years ago, declassified documents from the FBI shows that in fact, was not the case, that this guy was, in fact, a Saudi Arabian intelligence officer. And because of that, now you have the families of 9/11, the victims and the survivors. They are suing, or they're trying to sue the Saudi Arabian government because they believe that the Saudi Arabian government is potentially responsible for what happened on that day. Okay, so there's an actual lawsuit in court from the families of the 9/11 victims and the victims themselves. Again, basically saying, look, based off this FBI declassified document, we think that Saudi Arabia may have some involvement in this. Okay, so again, this is not a conspiracy. Okay, this is not a conspiracy. Okay, this is something that, again, is actually happening, right? But according to CNN, again, any opinion outside of the mainstream is potentially a dangerous conspiracy theory. Even if the FBI is basically confirming that, hey, it's not a conspiracy, that, hey, Saudi Arabia may or may not have known about this. But again, Kaitlan Collins is going to twist this into making it seem like Vivek Ramaswamy believes that 9/11 was an inside job, aka that it was done by, I guess, the American government, or the American government had knowledge of it. And that's not what he's saying at all, right? Nobody is saying that. He's not saying that. He's simply saying that the government has not been 100% truthful in regards to what we knew about Saudi Arabia's potential involvement in what happened that day. Now, I want to go ahead and play this video, but before I get into it, I got to add some context here so that YouTube moderators understand the purpose of this video and get it twisted in regards to what the purpose is. I am not pushing any conspiracy theories, okay? I do not believe that 9/11 was an inside job. I am simply just commenting on this back and forth between Vivek Ramaswamy and Kaitlan Collins of CNN. I'm giving commentary on things that have come out that the government has confirmed themselves. In no shape, form, or fashion am I pushing any 9/11 conspiracy theories. I do not believe that 9/11 was an inside job. So I just got to make that clear because, you know, YouTube moderators, they sometimes get confused. Okay, so you got to be clear about what the intent here of this video is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
A report in The Atlantic that you gave an interview to, you said, quote, "I think it is legitimate to say how many federal agents were on the planes that hit the Twin Towers. Maybe the answer is zero. It probably is zero for all I know, right? I have no reason to think it was anything other than zero, but if we're doing a comprehensive assessment of what happened on 9/11, we have a 9/11 commission. Absolutely, there should be an answer the public knows the answer to." Explain to me what you meant there.
This is really, it's funny. I mean, The Atlantic is playing the same game as CNN. It's funny. What I said is, on January 6th, I do believe that there were many federal agents in the field, and we deserve to know who they are. On 9/11, what I've said is that the government lied. And this is incontrovertible evidence, Kaitlan. the government lied about Saudi Arabia's involvement. There was a Saudi spy named al-Bayoumi who they lied, and the government lied, and the 9/11 Commission lied. We know that because declassified reports in 2021 revealed that al-Bayoumi was indeed. What's that?
Yeah, the report that President Biden declassified.
Yes.
But your quote here, are you telling me that the quote is wrong
20 years later,
here?
yeah.
But are you telling me that your quote is wrong here because
actually.
it says how many
I am
federal
actually.
agents were on the plane
I
at
actually
the
asked.
Twin Towers?
Yeah, when I actually, and this is just lifting the curtain on how media works again, I asked that reporter to send the recording because it was on the record. He refused to do it. But we had a free-flowing conversation. The truth is there are lies the government has told about 9/11, but it's not the ones that somebody put in my mouth. It's the one that I articulated, which is that Saudi Arabia, absolutely, their intelligence was involved in 9/11. And that's a difficult thing you're not supposed to say. The facts back that up. Separately, as it relates to January 6th, same story all over again. There were federal agents in the field. I think they've lied about how many there were, and we, the people, deserve the truth, despite the layers of distortion that exist in the media to prevent us from getting it.
You're saying that you were misquoted here, so we will take you at your word.
Yes.
You're saying that you were misquoted here, but you were asked another time recently about whether or not 9/11 was an inside job. This is what your response was.
9/11 inside job, or exactly how the government tells us?
I don't believe the government has told us the truth. Again, I'm driven by evidence and data. What I've seen in the last several years is we have to be skeptical of what the government does tell us. I haven't seen evidence to the contrary, but do I believe everything the government told us about it? Absolutely not.
Last two
I believe
questions.
the 9/11 Commission? Absolutely not.
I mean, Vic, I think people look at those comments. They look at what you said in the Atlantic, which you say you were misquoted. They look at comments that you've made about the Federal Reserve adding zeros to media companies' bank accounts. And I mean, it looks like you're floating conspiracy theories with this defense of I'm just asking questions.
Oh, here we go, guys. Here we go. How many times have we heard this from the mainstream liberal media, right? Again, it's illegal. It's illegal in this country. You can't do it, right? You can't ask questions, right? You can't question the mainstream narrative, okay? You can't do it, right? If you question the mainstream narrative, even when it is clear that the mainstream liberal narrative should be questioned, again, when it comes to, hey, some elements of 9/11 in regards to whether or not Saudi Arabia was aware that this was happening, whether or not they have anything to do with it. Again, FBI declassified documents from Joe Biden that Joe Biden declassified says, hey, this guy was a Saudi Arabian intelligence officer. We were wrong, right? So again, when it's clear as day that, hey, there's some parts about 9/11 they got wrong. Well, you're floating dangerous conspiracies. It's like, well, I mean, I'm just asking questions. I mean, the FBI told us that they were wrong. So what's wrong with just saying, look, well, I mean, if they're wrong about that, can we ask questions about anything else to try to get the truth? But again, these people, they want you to believe everything that comes from the mainstream liberal media. They want you to believe the establishment narrative, even when the establishment is telling you that, hey, what we said was not true. Again, when it comes to January 6th, same thing, right? The narrative has changed now that the FBI can't even come out here and unequivocally deny that there were agents, federal agents in the crowd, right? They can't even deny it. If you ask them straight up, hey, were there federal agents in that crowd? Well, I don't know, right? We can either confirm nor deny. If they didn't have them there, all they got to do is say, nah, we didn't, right? It's really that simple. That is the least controversial thing if you're telling the truth, right? But again, you can't ask, don't question the official narrative, even when time and time again, the official narrative has been proven to be wrong. Now, in regards to that specific quote from The Atlantic, in regards to Vivek Ramaswamy's comments about January 6th, it really wasn't about 9/11. He essentially was just using 9/11 as an example in regards to how he thinks it's legitimate to ask questions about basically anything, right? He's saying, look, it's nothing wrong with asking questions, okay? I mean, when it comes to the January 6th Commission, they should be asking questions about, how many federal agents were in the crowd. And hey, I believe that you can ask such questions about 9/11 as well, too. That is what he was saying, okay? He's saying that even in an extreme situation like 9/11, I think it's important to be able to ask questions because the government hasn't been 100% truthful, even when it comes to events like that, right? In which, again, the FBI admits we weren't 100% truthful, or at the very least, they just got it wrong, okay? They either were lying or they got it wrong, okay? I'm just saying, I mean, just like the war in Iraq, right? They weren't 100% truthful. There are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. You go into Iraq and we don't find anything, right? We don't find any weapons of mass destruction. Again, it's just, this happens, right? It happens. And see, again, that's why it's important to ask questions. Okay, again, the families of the 9/11 victims are asking questions, right? They're questioning the official government narrative. Is that harmful, right? Is that harmful? Are you trying to say that the victims of the 9/11 families are wrong for asking questions about whether or not Saudi Arabia was involved, for AKA questioning the official government narrative? Again, I would love to see Kaitlan Collins ask this same question to the victims of 9/11. Because they're suing, right? They're suing, okay? They're suing over this. Again, this is just piss poor journalism, man. It really is.
Well, when you actually quote me, those are my words, and I stand by them. So somebody else quoting me, putting words in my mouth, I have a problem with. But those words I stand by. You want to know why? Because we literally know the FBI, the 9/11 Commission, the U.S. government on down told us specifically that Saudi Arabia had no involvement. 20 plus years later, quietly declassifying documents showing that not only did Saudi Arabia have involvement, it was a Saudi intelligence agent that received two of those terrorists that crashed planes on 9/11, killing Americans.
But the question was, is 9/11 an inside job? And you didn't say no.
Caitlin,
that's what I
just
think people are looking at.
Caitlin, you know what's really funny? You literally just played that, and you could play it for your audience again. He said, or do you believe everything the government has told us? And my answer was, I do not believe everything the government has told us,
but you see
because
the
they
point.
lied.
The point is
and
that
I know
it leaves
this game
the door
comes up,
open.
Caitlin, every time there's an outsider who comes in.
It leaves the door open, Vivek. It leaves the door open, and someone who's a 9/11 truther looks at that and says, that's exactly what I believe.
Now, look, here's the thing. Me personally, I don't believe that 9/11 was an inside job. But the fact that she's trying to basically press this man on an answer for whether or not he believes it, they want to go out of their way to make people say things, right? You have to come out here and to say that, hey, the government was involved, that it wasn't an inside job. If you don't, then people are going to believe dangerous conspiracies, right? It's just so amazing how she's so triggered because this guy just happens to have some beliefs about, hey, this is what I think happened. I don't necessarily believe the whole narrative. I think it's important to ask questions, right? But again, questions are dangerous, okay, according to the media. And in this case right here, Kaitlan Collins is the one that is pushing this idea that Vivek Ramaswamy is saying that 9/11 was an inside job, because he never said that, right? He never said that in the interview with The Atlantic, and he never said that in the interview with Alex Stein. He never said that. She played a clip of him not saying that, right? He did not say that, okay? But in her mind, he basically said that, right? Because he said, well, it's important that, we question some parts of the narrative because, there's some things that they haven't been 100% truthful with us about. And she extrapolated that to the extreme to make it seem like, oh, well, he must be saying that 9/11 was an inside job. But he didn't say that. He never said that. There's no quote of him ever saying that, right? But she's asking the man the question. She's pressing him on it as if he said it. Nobody said that.
You think the government's lying about 9/11?
I think the government has systematically and for a very long time lied about 9/11. And I think I'm the only presidential candidate who has told us the truth.
He just told you.
Saudi Arabia's involvement. It is absolutely true.
But you don't think that 9/11 was an inside job, correct?
Of course not. And I've never said it. But
again, he never said that. That quote in The Atlantic was not him saying it, which again, I would like to hear the actual interview, right? Because I believe I understand the context of what he was saying, what he was trying to say. I think he was trying to say that, hey, it's legitimate to ask these questions when it comes to anything, right? Was the federal government involved? I think it's legitimate to at least ask the question because, again, our government is just not very trustworthy. But he's not saying definitively that I believe it was an inside job. He never said that. Nobody's saying that, right? Nobody's saying that. He's saying, look, this part of it, they haven't been truthful with us about, so therefore we should be asking more questions about what happened that day. Which, again, is the same thing when it comes to January 6th, same thing when it came to the Iraq War, when it comes to a lot of stuff that the U.S. government is involved in. I think it's important to ask questions about the official narrative because it just so happens that a lot of the times, 20, 30, 40 years later, the government comes out and tells us, oh, well, we kind of weren't 100% truthful about what actually happened, guys. Right? Please forgive us. Give us a mulligan. Right? Keep trusting us every time we tell you that something happened the way it happened when it initially happened. It's also important to question the actual quote from The Atlantic in regards to how accurate it is, okay, or they're trying to spin something to try to make it seem like Vivek Ramaswamy is saying something that he's not actually saying, which I believe that that's what they're doing. I don't think he's actually trying to say what it sounds like he's trying to say in that quote. I think it's important to question them because these are the same people that came out here and claimed that Trump told people that Americans who died in war were suckers and losers. And they have, to this day, not provided any evidence or facts to back up that claim that Trump actually said that, right? But again, the mainstream liberal media peddled it as if it was fact because it came from this ultra woke liberal publication. So again, this is just ridiculous, right? It really is. What Kaitlan Collins should be questioning here is The Atlantic. Is this actually a real quote, right? Did Vivek Ramaswamy actually say this? Okay, because it's not like this is necessarily coming from a trustworthy place, okay? The mainstream liberal media and the government are literally the least trustworthy entities in the country, right? The institutions that the American people trust the least are the government and the liberal media, okay? And that's for a reason. It's for a reason.
The media filters do create a lot of
It's not
falsehoods,
a media filter.
but
You have to
that's the
stop
truth.
blaming the media. I'm asking you about comments that you have made.
And I'm telling you that the comments I made, the ones you just played, are indeed what I believe, which was not that 9/11 was an inside job, but that Saudi Arabia absolutely was involved, and our government for 20 years lied to the American people about it.
There was an entire
That is
9/11
hard
commission
fact,
report
actually.
on this.
Yes, and it will. And
Yeah, and it was wrong, right? It was wrong. That's what he's trying to tell you. The FBI released declassified documents basically stating that, yeah, I mean, the 9/11 commission report was wrong, that the Saudi Arabian government also was wrong. The CIA and the FBI were wrong in regards to that specific individual being a Saudi Arabian intelligence officer. That's what he's trying to tell you, that report was wrong, okay? I mean, it's really that simple. It's almost like this woman is just, she's not understanding. She's not getting it. I mean, this is ridiculous.
It lied, and it was false. And in fact, you know where that's coming out, Caitlin? There's now a case, a federal case in the Southern District of New York, where the government of Saudi Arabia is being sued by victims of families.
the
That's why
families,
this is
yes.
resurfacing itself. It is relevant, and it turns
But there's
out
a difference
in
in
those
asking
declassified
questions
documents
about Saudi
that the
Arabia's
government lied.
involvement and the government's involvement, and then pushing this idea that whenever what your comment about who was on the plane and then was 9/11 an inside job where you did not say no earlier. That's why it's important to clarify those comments, because otherwise it feels like you're towing the line when it comes to conspiracy theories.
Caitlin, it is.
Oh, God forbid. God forbid. God forbid that you have a thought, that you have one thought outside of the mainstream narrative. God forbid you can't do it. You can't do it. Right? You can't be an independent thinker in this country, right? Or you're going to get shaved, right? He's now Alex Jones, right? He's become Alex Jones because he's literally saying, look, the government lied to us about it. They're telling us they lied to us about it, or at the very least they got it wrong. I think it's important to ask more questions. Oh, God, you can't do that. You can't ask more questions when the government told us that we should probably be asking more questions about this. This is amazing.
I am guilty as charged that I do not follow the establishment super PAC donor approved script on these questions, but I am speaking truth, grounded in fact, at every step of the way. And that's what's really elicited something of an anaphylactic reaction of the kind we saw in 2016 against a different candidate.
Yeah.
But this time I'm going to be grounded in principles and conviction, not just vengeance and grievance, which is exactly
you're
how we
grounded
will
in evidence.
reunite
That's
this
just
country.
simply what we were asking for. But Vivek Ramaswamy will
Yes.
leave it there. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
You can't ask questions, bro. Don't ask questions about anything, okay? Even when the government tells you that, hey, we got it wrong, don't ask any further questions. You gotta believe everything else, or else, again, you're a dangerous person. This is ridiculous. It really is. It really is how ridiculous it is when people, when it comes to anything, just questioning the mainstream narrative, there's so much pushback, right? A lot of times it's turned out to be wrong. They just tell you decades later that, hey, we were wrong, right? And it's just, it's shameful. It really is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.